In the name of God, the Holy and Undivided Trinity. Amen. I'm always struck every year at the contrast between Christmas Eve services and the lesson from Luke, which is very much set in a specific time, in a specific place. It was when Quirinius was governor. It was during the census. Mary and Joseph went to Bethlehem, and a remarkable, miraculous thing happened. There were shepherds and there were angels of the heavenly host singing. There's a lot going on. We shift on Christmas Day and on the first Sunday after Christmas to this lesson from John, from the prologue to the fourth gospel. And it invites us, I think, into a very different space. It invites us to consider that maybe it's not just the particular time and the particular place that matters most. And I'm not suggesting that we not read Luke's gospel on Christmas Eve, and I'm not suggesting that we don't have children's Christmas pageants with angels and shepherds and all the trappings. But if we lock ourselves into thinking that God only breaks into our reality in one specific place and one specific time, I think we miss the point of the prologue to John's gospel. It's almost as if we start with Luke, and then John's gospel invites kind of a reverse zoom on a camera so that we're seeing a broader angle. Instead of a tight shot, we're seeing the whole picture. Because John's gospel invites us back to the beginning, right? In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And this opens us up to the realization that God's work is not limited to one particular place and one particular time. That God does what God does in every particular place and in every particular time. It's overwhelming. It sometimes hits below the level of vocabulary. Can't even talk about it. The mystery of the Incarnation. Though I do think the prologue to John's gospel does a pretty good job of talking about it. Beginning with this realization that Christ has been there, co-eternal with God, in all times and in all places, and that God's work is never limited to just the particular. It invites us to think about who we are in a different way. I think the church has not done a particularly good job of teasing out the reality that within us all, the image of God resides. Within us all, there is that of Christ within us. I think sometimes we focus way too much on things like total depravity, that we are unredeemable, we are hopeless, we are worthless, we are worms and not people. And that doesn't sound like good news to me. Christ lifts us up, reminds us of our worth, reminds us that the image of God is kindled within each of us. We see that light, and like John the Baptist, we testify to that light. We find our courage because what we have realized is that we don't need to worry so much about this whole spirit versus matter duality. We don't have to worry about, things of the flesh are evil and horrible and they will lead you astray, and don't do it, don't even think about it, stay away from it. Because Christ has touched the things of this world. The Word that became flesh is present in every molecule, in every atom, in every subatomic particle. There is that of God. There is Christ shining the light that shines in the darkness, and the darkness does not overcome it. That sounds like much better news than we are totally depraved and never, ever, ever, ever going to amount to anything. And if we can think that way, if we recognize that within each of us the light of Christ shines, we start to think of ourselves in different ways. We can let go of shame. We can let go of guilt. We can let go of these things that keep us from living life and living it abundantly. Because we recognize that even in our mistakes, even in our faults, even on our worst days, Christ is present in these events, working out God's purpose, working out the healing and the wholeness and the restoration that God has promised to all of us. And so we see the Word made flesh, the Word made flesh, who is the only one who has seen God. We experience God through Christ, the Word made flesh. It's a remarkably good Christmas message. It's something that we can take with us. And again, I'm not saying get rid of the shepherds and get rid of the angels and get rid of Luke's version. I'm just inviting us into the profound mystery of the Incarnation, into the profound mystery of our transformation. Because the simple thing is, once we have seen that no matter what we've done and no matter who we think we are, that Christ is present within us, it becomes easier for us to see Christ is present in everybody else, in our friends, in our families. And if we get to that point, we start to see that Christ is present not just in them, but even in the people who challenge us, even in the people who make us uncomfortable, even in the people who we kind of want to go sit on the other side of the nave because they're sitting on this side of the nave. We're invited into the household of God, where all of us call God Abba, Father, as Paul wrote to the Galatians, where all of us recognize that we're on the same footing. And once we start seeing even our worst enemies as not less than, but as equally beloved of Christ as we are, it changes the way we think about them. It changes our approach, our relationships. It changes how we interact with each other. Because once we get to that point where Jesus has tricked us into loving our enemies, you got to watch Jesus. He will trick you into doing things you don't want to do. Love your enemies. Okay. Once we're there, we know that we're never going to dehumanize other people. We're never going to treat them as worthless. We're never going to treat them as less than what they are, which is just like us, God's beloved. God's beloved who see God, the Father, our Abba, in each other, who see the work that God is doing in this world to renew and restore and to heal and to make whole. And we can't help being like John the Baptist and testifying to the light that we have seen. It's too good a story not to share with others. Amen.